Nikocado Avocado wants us to believe that he's always 2 steps ahead, but I don't believe that's true. I don't think he realizes what he's recently admitted to, or if he does, then he's proudly rebranding himself as a rampant fatphobe, in my opinion. Hi, my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel, Hannah Needs to Yell, and today I need to yell about Nikocado Avocado. This video today is here to replace the recent video that I made about this subject where I made a bad comparison. So I want to start out by saying, sorry about that. Truly I am. And I want to thank my audience for very graciously calling that out and pointing that out to me. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to offend anybody. And I understand what the mistake was. I don't want to repeat what I said because I don't want anyone to come along and validate the rhetoric that I used because, like I said, it was bad. It was not good. So if you know, you know. Again, I'm really sorry. And I'm listening to you. I took that video down. And this video is take 2, where I want to preserve the better points that I made in that old video and expand on a few things, because in that video, I didn't fully flesh out all of my feelings about Nikocado Avocado and his return, and I figure I should do that. Nikocado Avocado, aka Nick, is one of the most infamous YouTuber mukbangers for a good reason. Over the past 8 years, we have watched him transform from a vegan YouTuber and an exceptionally talented violinist to obese, unhinged, tantrum-throwing, and a toxic partner who does mukbang binges on the most unhealthy food known to mankind, essentially. He has been uploading consistently all these 8 years, but his September 6th, 2024 video suddenly revealed his actually skinny body that he has secretly spent about 2 years cultivating. He delivers a condescending and ultimately unclear, Joker-esque speech in that video before he introduces the rebranded new Nick, which essentially is the old Nick, since he basically turns back the clock and portrays himself the way that he did with the persona he had 8 years ago. The message is that this is the real Nick, with his real voice and his real facial expressions and his real references to his life and his real green parrot. This is who Nick really is. He's back. And all those 8 years in between were just some strange nightmare, which we should all forget, like he did, and just leave it in the past and focus on the new Nick. However, I can't do that. Because in his video's opening, with all of the awkward passion of a freshman theater major relying on his Meisner feels to improvise an internal monologue out loud, he adamantly calls himself a villain and claims that he's always 2 steps ahead, essentially implying that he planned this all along. Like he was always planning to gain all this weight, acting more and more unhinged as he did so, until he took a break to secretly lose that weight and suddenly return as the skinny legend that he always truly was. Now, I don't think that's actually what happened here. I think he probably gained more weight than he expected to from doing his mukbangs and decided to capitalize on it in the most fat-phobic way possible, which we'll get to. But that's not what he's saying to his audience. Despite his attempted rebrand as a genuine king with his hat and his parrot and his smiling face, he's not admitting to any genuine struggle with weight, any genuine difficulty to decide how to handle that. There is no genuine addressing of his behavior on camera while he was gaining weight. There is no genuine vulnerability or accountability here, even though this style of comeback method would have been responsible, mature, and more aligned with his new, old, real Nick persona that he's putting on. And honestly, it would have been just as enticing of a comeback video as the video that he did put out. But no, instead, Nick came back to deflect, gaslight, and manipulate the audience by saying this is what he planned all along. And this defense mechanism of his is actually highly problematic and hurtful to people in ways that no one is acknowledging. So let's spend some time taking Nick at his word. Let's run with his story. Let's suspend our disbelief and accept that Nick truly planned this transformation all along. Like he said, 2 steps ahead. If that is the case, he is essentially admitting that he, a skinny white man who always intended to get skinny again, spent 8 years building his platform and making his money on rampant fat phobia. He capitalized on people's subconscious biases against fatness and exploited real people's real weight struggles for clicks, views, clout, and money. Most of all, Nick would rather imply that he did all this than admit that, yeah, he had a weight struggle for a while there. And this preference in and of itself is fatphobic behavior. This is absolutely disgusting, and the celebration of Nick's comeback is honestly heartbreaking. So I'm here to set the record straight about what Nick apparently wants us to believe happened here and the impact it's having. Because yeah, it's hurting people. Before we get into it, disclaimers. First of all, this video will contain a lot of talk about weight, weight loss, weight gain, body image, etc. If that's difficult for you, please don't feel you need to stick around. Protect your mental health and go in peace, my friend. Have a fantastic day. Come back for the next one. Next, everything I'm about to say are my opinions, my allegations, my speculations based on publicly available information. Take everything with a grain of salt, do your own research, form your own opinions, share those opinions in my comments. I'm here for a discussion. Finally, don't send hate to anyone that I mention, but maybe send some love to my channel by liking this video, subscribing to my channel, share this video, set your notifications to all, especially because my schedule is about to be upended with I'm getting a new day job. So I do not know what YouTube is going to look like for me after the next couple of weeks. So you're going to need to stay informed. I will do my best. All right, cool. All right, that stuff is out of the way. Let's discuss Nikocado Avocado's problematic rebrand. So, Nick wants us to believe that he's 2 steps ahead, that he is the villain that he has made himself. We are all consumers and silly little stupid little ants that watch whatever he tells us to watch, yada yada. He doesn't acknowledge that his audience was having a reasonable reaction to the public spectacle he was making of himself over the past 8 years, which is where I would like to start today. During Nikocado Avocado's 8 years making mukbangs, he gained about 250 pounds, and along the way, he also gained a different personality. The larger he got physically, the more he acted dramatic, toxic, crying in thumbnails, crying in videos, filming himself throwing tantrums, being awful and sometimes physical toward his partner, having emotional and psychological breakdowns on camera. All sorts of red flags all over his videos. He portrayed himself as being so overweight that he was close to losing his life, and he acted extremely erratic and absurd for years. So people were naturally very concerned about his physical and mental health and well-being. Therefore, when he returned in this most recent set of videos talking like a normal person again and looking conventionally healthier, meaning thinner, he understandably made a lot of people feel happy and even relieved that he was okay again. Most people are responding to his return by fascinatedly buying into this deflective suggestion of his that he was performing an 8-year-long social experiment. They're even okay with the fact that while he was still in his fat body about 2 years ago, he made the conscious choice to pre-plan and pre-film 2 years worth of content full of all of these extreme, toxic, gross moments. He also decided that when he came back after losing weight, he was going to abandon this over-the-top act that he had been putting on while he was bigger. If Nick was breaking the fourth wall a little bit and being honest about his thought process, I wouldn't blame him for leaving that caricature behind. It looked like an exhausting way to behave, if not a portrayal of the self-hatred that he may have felt for allowing himself to gain so much weight, in my opinion. But because he's not talking about it and saying it was all a bad dream and we all just disassociated for like 8 years and now we've woken up and we're back to reality, his actions have some absolutely disgusting implications. Let's talk about why what he did is disgusting and why the positive reception he's receiving is every fat person's worst nightmare. What Nikocado Avocado did is disgusting, and here's why. Imitation is not always a form of flattery. In many cases, imitation is mockery and bullying and even discriminatory. That's what Nick engaged in here. Some sort of long-running discriminatory comedy skit where he was method acting out his fat phobia for his platform of millions, mocking real fat people along the way, in my opinion. Because remember, Nick is essentially saying that he planned this all along. He's 2 steps ahead, remember? He's the villain that he made himself. He performed a social experiment on all of us ants. And as he told his parrot in his comeback video, he had an 8-year-long bad dream that he woke up from when he, quote, took off his fat suit, which is something that real fat people can't do. You can't just take off fatness as easily as you can take off a fat suit. If we believe Nick's story, then we have to believe that this was all planned, scripted, like a show. He put on his weight and his personality changes like a costume, and then he put on a hateful charade, becoming a skinny person impersonating a fat-phobic, discriminatory caricature of a fat person. Nick's recent assertion recontextualizes all of his past videos for me into a very sickening, concerning light. If Nick really is 2 steps ahead like he says, he must have seen what he was doing and the harm caused by this fat-phobic charade. It perpetuated false, harmful stereotypes about fat people. His portrayal included tropes like being lazy, sick, emotional, mentally ill, weak, eating absolute garbage all the time in gigantic amounts, being messy, sloppy, having just like poor hygiene, the list goes on. It also reveals Nick's own fat phobia, which is evident in like the disdain with which he talks about his fatter self in this comeback video, referring to that time period as a bad dream. So either his fatness was a bad dream, or the action of him playing this fat-phobic caricature was a bad dream. Almost as if he shouldn't have been doing it. You know, I don't know. I'm not sure which one of these he meant, but neither interpretation of his statement looks good. Most importantly, this 8-year-long charade hurts the fat community, which, by the way, is most of America. The average American man has a 38 to 40 inch waist, which most US size charts call an extra large. Back in 2016, the average American woman wore a size 16 to 18, which typically measures a 36 to 38 inch waist, and which is usually also considered a US size extra large. That's the average. Here in 2024, that number is probably higher, and that tells you that there are plenty of people larger than that if that's the average. I'll also offer my story as an example because, oh yeah, this is personal to me and to anybody else who has ever been obese in their life. If you're new to my channel, hi, hello, thank you for being here. Maybe like and subscribe. This is what I looked like only 2 years ago, which is around when I filmed my James Charles series. I have struggled with weight for my entire life. It is a defining narrative in my life story, my health, my mental health, the body dysmorphia that I have that I really don't talk about, my mental health conditions, diagnoses that I have that aggravated my weight gain, which then further aggravated my mental health conditions, and so on and so forth. It is a lifelong battle for me and for many other fat people. In May of 2022, I entered a medical weight loss program where I was approved to get weight loss surgery out of medical necessity because I had been fighting this battle since I was a child and my body was hurting me. I couldn't take it anymore and I needed to take drastic measures to find stability. I believe I topped out at over 372 pounds, but to be honest with you, I don't know for sure because I stopped weighing myself once I saw that number on the scale that I honestly never thought that I would. I underwent gastric sleeve surgery in late October of 2022, and now, almost 2 years later, I am the smallest that I've ever been since I was literally prepubescent. I offer that experience only to say this. Do not be fooled by my current appearance. I have lived as a plus-size woman. I have taken the lifelong ride on the weight loss, weight gain roller coaster, and it is no joke. It is nothing to be mocked. Fat people are stared at like freaks of nature, mocked in person and in the media, neglected or misunderstood by our doctors, discriminated against by well-meaning family and friends and coworkers, and of course those who don't mean well, and by society as a whole in subtle ways that often, hear me, you don't realize until you experience it. Okay? Weight is so incredibly deep and personal, yet it is so incredibly visible to everybody around you. It becomes part of your identity in ways that you did not ask for. It becomes part of your physical and mental health in ways that you did not ask for. It can determine what jobs you get, how you are perceived by others, and even what clothes you can wear. Because as much as society does not want fat people to walk around naked, they also don't seem to want to provide us with accessible clothing options that fit both our bodies and our lifestyles. That's a conversation that I have more on my other channel, but it's just worth pointing out. I digress. Anyway, the point is, I can tell you from personal experience, from other people's experiences, and from research that weight is an incredibly complex, personal, societal issue loaded with class, culture, race, gender, and other implications, especially in the United States of America. Of all the things that weight is, it is not a costume. So, I think you can tell how deeply it hit me personally to see Nikocado Avocado when he was completely rebranding himself and had the opportunity to do or say anything in that process, declining to get real about his weight journey and instead smugly declaring that this weight journey and the corresponding upheaval of his personality was a mere experiment, a farce, a joke on us, silly ants. In my opinion, whether he realizes it or not, Nick is actually happily declaring that this was a years-long fatphobic charade, where Nick portrayed what he really thinks about fat people by inhabiting those qualities himself, temporarily. Now that he took the weight off, like a fat suit, like a costume, as he apparently always intended to because he's 2 steps ahead, his hatred toward fat people shines all the clearer through his content, at least to me, and maybe to others. Let me know in the comments below. It is truly one of the most disgusting displays I've seen played out online, and it's an absolutely pathetic way for this privileged white man to use his successful YouTube platform in the 2020s. Now, here is why the positive reception to Nick's comeback is every fat person's worst nightmare. The positive reaction to Nick's long con is a huge slap in the face to fat people and proudly displays society's bias against fat people and fatness. Here's why I think this. 1. Nikocado Avocado basically admitted that he built his brand and made his money by portraying a mockery of fat people for 8 years. And everyone is clapping. No one is booing. What? What the hell? Just saying. Anyway, 2, under this guise, Nick exploited his fatness for clout. First, he played up, to the extent of being a caricature, the health side of his weight gain, making clickbaity thumbnails and titles that emphasized his real or fake, maybe, honestly, at this point, I don't know, it might have been fake, medical struggles associated with it. The title of this video that he uploaded just 1 month ago, this was very recent. I don't think this man is a changed man, but this was uploaded just 1 month ago. The title says, "You won't believe I'm still alive," as if people his size should be dead. Hello? Like, I don't know. And he's wearing one of these breathing masks, but who knows if he ever really needed it? Like, was this all a farce? Was this all fake? To me, it just looks like he's making a mockery of real people with real struggles who really need that kind of medical intervention. Like, how gross can you get? Hello? Why are we celebrating this? In addition, he pretended to be part of the fat community, collaborating with fat creators to gain exposure and goodwill with their audiences, pretending to just be a normal fat mukbanger when it was all an act, apparently, according to him. This is particularly exploitative when it comes to fat creators and their audiences, because I believe Nick is fat phobic, as I have already discussed, and because the fat or plus size or curvy community, whatever you want to call it, is very supportive of each other, especially when it comes to increasing our representation in media and social media. So fans of other fat mukbangers may have supported Nick simply because they wanted to see another fat mukbanger succeed. And it seems they were misled. 3, finally, this is the worst nightmare because the main positive feedback that Nick is getting during this comeback is a celebration of his weight loss. And this is where it gets personal and societal at the same time. People are congratulating Nick for his weight loss because of how he portrayed his weight gain. He created and portrayed a false correlation. The fatter he got, the crazier he acted. So it seemed that his weight gain was making him act insane, so his weight loss would make him act normal again. And I cannot express to you how much this is not a thing. Okay, I was the same person at size 18 that I was at size 26 and that I am here at size 10. I had the same personality, the same dreams, the same hopes, the same goals, the same skills, the same mental health, all of it. The stigma of this false correlation is so dangerous to put onto both fat people and neurodiverse people. I don't think I can fully put into words how toxic and garbage this is. Everything about him changed. But anyway, that's the lore that Nick wrote for himself, for his character that he was playing over these years. So, naturally, when he came back skinny and a little bit maniacal, but mostly back to his normal self, there was a natural sense of relief. Hooray! Nickens is not eating himself to death anymore. In fact, this was actually all just a big fun prank. Woo! But in reality, this reaction from the massive majority of people reveals the YouTube audience's subconscious bias against fatness, which Nick's content only helped to cultivate and confirm, thanks to this portrayal of the false correlation between his weight gain and extreme mental health decay and personality overhaul. He associated those two things which do not belong together. They are not dependent upon each other. Okay. This is an example of Western culture's persistent unconscious bias toward thinness and against fatness, or it's a conscious bias depending on the person. Society has taught us that thin is good, fat is bad, and not just from a health standpoint, but from a moral standpoint, from a value standpoint, from a worth standpoint as well. This is why I'm using the word fat a lot in this video, because fat shouldn't be a bad word. It is just an adjective. But society has ingrained in us that it should be a bad word. The last thing you want to be is fat. And Nick certainly has not helped to destigmatize it. Basically, being thin, staying thin, losing weight to become thin is something that makes you a good person. It reflects self-control, dedication, staying active, accomplishing goals, being productive, all sorts of things that our society puts on a pedestal. The celebration of Nick's weight loss resembles what all fat people experience when we lose weight. We are suddenly acknowledged by so many people who had previously ignored us. We are showered in congratulations and compliments. We are seen as doing something morally good because it's good for our health. We are praised for the end result of looking how society wants us to look, regardless of how we got there. I.e., nobody cares whether or not our weight loss process was healthy. They're just happy that we lost the weight. And the sudden social validation feels good in the moment, but it is also some severe psychological whiplash. Each compliment suddenly feels backhanded. You look great feels like you looked awful before. I'm so proud of you feels like I was ashamed of you before. And you start to question your worth, your relationships with the people around you, their motivations, your motivations. You wonder, why am I suddenly good enough now and I wasn't good enough before? Did these people actually love me when I was bigger? Did I lose weight for them and their love, or did I lose weight for myself? Do I need to get a bunch of new friends who will love me at all sizes? Do I need a whole new community around me? Or do I need to just conform to what these people want because they're correct? That's the real nightmare, Nick. The constant questioning of your self-identity, your self-worth. And while you were apparently planning on this weight loss all along, we fatties who have gone through this weight cycle in a genuine way are getting triggered to hell and back by this situation. Congratulations. The traditional societal values of loving and praising thinness and fearing and avoiding and hating fatness are on full display right now, thanks to you. We are watching the comments on your weight loss, how you and other creators and the audience as a whole are talking about your former fat body and being triggered with all of these questions of self-worth in a society that, once again, despite all the progress we've made toward body positivity, body acceptance, representation, etc., still continues to prove itself to be latently fat-phobic. And we can't escape it because your video, your comeback is at the top of YouTube right now. Everybody's talking about it. Your actual videos they were #1 on trending a couple days ago. I don't know if they still are. I don't care if they still are. I didn't look it up. But this shit is everywhere. You have brought a storm upon the community that you are no longer even part of. And you're being praised for it. So shame on you and shame on anyone who uncritically celebrates what you did. And I get it. People are too distracted by the flawless execution of Nikocado Avocado's trickery to see that all of this is rampant fat phobia. So I'm here to point that out and to ask, now that we know this was all a charade, a show, a bad dream, an experiment, can we all please stop celebrating the return of skinny, normal Nick and recognize what this really was? This act of his was a disgusting, discriminatory caricature of real people who really struggle with their real weight. And this kind of shit hurts fat people. Both by it personally hurting Nikocado's fans who had trusted him, and by broadly damaging the perception of fat people in society, stigmatizing them by perpetuating disgusting stereotypes that are beyond false. They are discriminatory, they are harmful, and they are rooted in hate, in my opinion. And then Nick has the audacity to sit there and tell his little parrot that he had no choice. He had no choice but to do this 8-year-long social experiment. It was just a bad dream that ended when he took off the fat suit. You had no choice, Nick? Bullshit. You had plenty of choices and consistently made discriminatory ones. That is what's happening here. Please do not celebrate Nick's gaslighting, calling this a social experiment, and laughing at us ants when he was the one who did the gross thing here. I don't care if it's a bit. It's not funny. I don't care if he committed to the bit. It's not a bit. Nick is right to call himself a villain, but not because of whatever he thinks he did that made him a villain. I guess like putting on this hateful charade while he knew all along that he was eventually going to lose weight. No. His real villainy is in his fat phobia. And by calling this all a joke on us, he just exposed that he has been displaying it for years in front of millions of people. Now, if Nick is not truly fat phobic, I hope he proves it by removing the videos where he was wearing a fat suit and putting on his fat phobic charade. Unless and until that happens, I find him truly disgusting, and I am gravely disappointed in the internet giving him a warm welcome. Clearly, when it comes to understanding weight and size discrimination, we all still have a lot of work to do. So these are my thoughts, my opinions, my perceptions of this situation, but please let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. Like my video, subscribe to my channel, share my video, whatever. I don't want to do a bunch of promo. I'm disturbed by this whole thing. Thank you for hearing me out. I'll see you sometime. I don't know when, because my schedule is all over the place right now. But until then, peace be with you always. Goodbye.